Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on, and shockingly, we've got longtime fools Dan Kaplinger and Matt Frankel giving a 1 to 10 rating to the company that's probably fine sharing its spotlight and profit machine with Visa. It's MasterCard, ticker symbol MA. Talk about the business first, including factors like industry and competition. A 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. High scores here. Dan's at an 8. Matt, you've got a 9.
Yeah, the only way I could think of anything higher is if Visa didn't exist. If it was an actual monopoly. It's really a legal duopoly almost with Visa. They're both comparable in size. MasterCard's just a little bit smaller, but they tower over the numbers 3 and 4, American Express and Discover, in terms of payment processing. And both of those are kind of closed loop systems, which I'll talk about later on. So that doesn't even really count. It's a massively profitable business. 45% net margin over the past 12 months. I mean, even any software company would love to have that. And it continues to grow its revenue at double-digit rates, even at the scale it's at. So I don't really see how you can argue that this is not a great business.
I was kind of tempted to pull a Jason Hall here and do the 8.5 instead of the 8, but in the end, my usual way of understating things kind of prevailed. MasterCard Global Business has defended itself successfully against potential fintech disruption. Its emphasis on globalization really helped it out. I think if I had to give a reason why I'm a point lower than Matt, it's that I'm not sure. I'm a little worried about globalization in future years. I think a trend towards deglobalization might actually give Visa an upper edge, but it's still a very strong business at MasterCard.
Let's move on to management. A 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Matt's got an 8. Dan's got a 7. Why the 8, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I could have gone a 7 or an 8 on this one, but Michael Miebach, he's a great leader. He's been with the company for about 15 years. He really kind of led the charge. Even before he was CEO, he led the charge from being a card-based business to kind of a digital payments business, I guess I would call it. But I would also argue that this category means the least of all the ones that we're discussing. MasterCard is such a giant business and essentially runs itself at this point. Warren Buffett has said that, Coca-Cola could be run by a ham sandwich and would do just fine. And I think that MasterCard is kind of in that same category.
Agree completely. I think that Maibach did a good job of emphasizing those value-added services to go above and beyond what Ajay Banga, former CEO, who Maibach took over for in 2020, just kind of rounding out the services. I ding Maibach a little bit, though. The stock has underperformed in the past 5 years. That's relatively short term. At the same time, it's not, you'd like to see a better track record of shareholder friendliness than you got. Not a big deal. That's why I'm still comfortable with the 7.
Not to pick on Matt, but this is another butchered Buffett quote. He said that a ham sandwich could run Coca-Cola, but he wasn't so sure about a turkey sandwich or a tuna fish sandwich. Let's move on to financials. A 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Both of you have 8s. Pretty strong, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I could make the case that it could be a little higher, but incredible profit margin. I've already mentioned that. Only one real competitor, especially when you consider on a global level. If you remember when you used to hear, sorry, we don't take Discover, sorry, we don't take American Express, that's still pretty universal outside of the U.S., but not the case with Visa and MasterCard. They've been buying back shares at a pretty reasonable rate, down about 6% in 3 years, a little over $11 billion in cash. They have about, I believe, $18 billion in debt, which I wouldn't call excessive, but it's there.
Yeah, impressive revenue growth from MasterCard, good profit growth. The margins are looking good. Debt has crept up just a little bit in recent years, but plenty of cash to offset. Very strong business financially.
Yeah, to Matt's point, I think I saw a Discover card commercial fairly recently, where it's just like, no, we're accepted at 99 point something % or whatever. But, I mean, you would be
that's
shocked.
The US.
Like, if a place took credit cards and didn't take Visa or Master, I mean, that would blow your mind. You'd be telling everyone. You might be on X or on Instagram just talking about it for a day or two.
I actually did go someplace where the Visa did not work, but the MasterCard did. First
that's
time ever.
Weird.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Dan Kaplinger always got the exception right there handy. When was this?
Oh, a couple years ago. And it was at one of those airplane vending machines. So, yeah, it is kind of crazy.
Well, there's also
Okay.
Costco where you can't use MasterCard.
Ah, well, that's a good one. All right, I stand corrected. Valuation time. How well will MasterCard stock do over the next 5 years, Dan? And how safe is it? 10 is a sure thing. One's a lottery ticket.
I give it my usual 5 to 10%. That's a market call. Safety score of 7. I see it being a solid market performer. Not really more. Probably safer than most stocks, though. Again, though, a little bit concerned about that deterioration in macroeconomic geopolitical conditions worldwide. I think that could be a headwind going forward.
Yeah, I also said 5 to 10%, but I gave it a 9 for safety, just because I can't really make any case in my mind that this business is going to do badly over the next 5 years. They're set up to do pretty well regardless of what happens in the retail landscape, for example. Even if e-commerce completely dominates brick and mortar retail, like we saw during the COVID pandemic, MasterCard's set up to do just fine. In inflationary environments, they have a kind of the protection of the fact that everyone's spending more on basic goods and services. So, I mean, yes, they are somewhat recession prone in terms of like global spending will decline and things like that. But over the long term, I don't really see any scenario where global spending doesn't rise.
Real quick aside for both of you, do you see cryptocurrency as a threat at all? With all the the bulls talk on that.
I don't, because I think if it becomes a big deal, MasterCard's going to be in it. I think it's really that simple.
Yeah, and both our MasterCard and Visa already have significant blockchain operations. They were kind of ahead of the curve on this. When I went to a Bitcoin conference in 2016, they were there. So I mean, they're well aware of what's going on.
They've been very adept at insinuating themselves into whatever the fintech stuff is. Talk about Top It. Dan, is there a company in MasterCard space that you like better?
I like Visa better. I think it has arguably less global exposure than MasterCard does. I used to prefer MasterCard because of the global exposure, but now I think an America First mindset might work better from a business standpoint. I think that's going to play to Visa's strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I have kind of a similar reason for loving American Express. It's mostly domestic. I've been an Amex shareholder for many years. I love the closed loop business model, meaning that Amex is also the lender because they have great asset quality, great customer base, and really an innovative history when it comes to developing new products. So I like the closed loop model a little bit better, but I can't make a case against MasterCard or Visa for that matter.
Well, thank you to both Matt and to Dan. They've given MasterCard a solid overall score of 7.4 out of 10. That's short of the 8.4 it got last time with Asit Sharma and Jason Hall, but still pretty good. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Appian. Till then, Fool on. Yeah, I could blame the kids and stuff, but it's like Margaritaville. It's my own damn fault.